Now that's a sobering thought. This is the beginning of the turn. I just deployed my command splits. This is all one area, and look at how many out-of-command English ships there are. This is why you don't let your formation break, quite simply. The alternative, of course, would be to use this commander wherever he is. I don't know where he is. Oh, wait, is he under here? God damn. Yeah, I got no idea. There he is. So if I used him, I could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I might be able to get more ships under his command by giving up these guys to out of command. Most of them are anyway. Let me see if I'll recalculate that, see if it comes out. Yes, that's a significant improvement. With his command range of 4, he can keep most of this together. Now, of course, this is what's amazing about someone like Nelson, is he can command a range of 9, which, as long as he's not, you know, separated by opposing ships, he can probably command a fair size of his Trafalgar fleet just using personal command rather than trying to use formation command. That's a nice effect. What I was looking at before would have been horrendous. 3 ships out of command over here, I can live with that. The English look pretty good elsewhere. Running this command is all together. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, I'm good. And then these guys make their own little formation. This guy's in command from him. I gotta note that, because that's gonna confuse me. Put another little command split there. There's only one command on that side, but it's really hard to tell between this sort of, I don't know which direction, but I think that's, I don't know. I don't know which way's north. So anyway, I've got 2 different directions to delineate that separation, and that's, I guess, the important point that I've got. So now I get to roll to see if the commands, if the out-of-command markers go away. And with what I had before, there would just be tons and tons, like half those ships probably would go out, would end up in command, which means the English would have lots of little commands, which would be very annoying for the French. So the high audacity rating makes this kind of nice, but I would rather ensure that I have command. So let's see, less than or equal to audacity minus the fleet's admiral command, if he's not. So I've got a fleet admiral who's quite good. He's a 4. So basically I have a 70% chance of each ship being in command for the English. For the French, on the other hand, their commander's only a 2, so we're going to roll him. He only has a 30% chance, and I have no idea. Okay, so the French get to keep their out-of-command marker. Let's check the English ones. 1, that one gets to stay. 2, that one goes. That one stays. So that wasn't a great deal of luck for either side. Alright. Initiative. Getting +2 for the English because of the commander. And they get the initiative. I don't know what they want to do with it. Do they want to go first? Do they want the French to go first? Be nice if I'd thought of that before. I'll come back. Here came a tough decision of the type I don't really like to have to make. For the English, the easiest thing to do would have been to move these guys. They're not too influential on the battle, and they could start swinging them around if that's what they desire, or try the tacking maneuver, either one with the eventual goal of getting below, I don't remember the proper term, the opposite of lee, below the French fleet and have the wind gauge on them. And in either case, it would be a long trip. This one looks faster overall, although they will be beating some part of it, no matter what they're doing. The of course, the fact that part of the fleet will be pushing through is part of the reason why I'm tempted to swing around as opposed to just come up and, try to face them straight on. The problem is that is the least effective place for the British to go. And in fact, maybe they want the French to go. But there was one ship in particular, this guy over here who was sitting here, and ended up taking a quick pot shot at him and pulling away. He was out of command, but he's allowed to do that pot shot because he was adjacent. That I was really uncomfortable with letting the French go first on. That was the only real place where I felt totally that the French had an advantage on a ship. So I just moved that out of command ship. Now, the movement option goes to the French, but they could insist that the English go. Again, I don't know where I'm going with this. Once things get to this kind of mess, and it's just going to get worse, the battle of decisions as to who goes and whether or not I moved something or whatever, all that becomes very complicated and hard to remember, and there are no counters to cover that aspect. I could use something, but there are so many counters on the board already. Didn't manage to do much with their activation. They took their wing and started curving up so that they're running, all keeping in formation, although it's gotten a little tight, and that's going to cause them some trouble in terms of maneuverability next turn. They probably should have left more spacing, especially down this way. They could have backed sails and such not to allow them to cross where the Brits are going to be rather than where they are right now. Definite error there. Pummeled the crap out of this thing. It's actually ready to sink, and also opened some fire on this one. For the most part, that was, I'm still, the 4 ships in the back there have not fired. They've been out of the engagement. They're just excess ships at this point that are not making their presence felt. That's a bad thing. They've been moving my French fleet, pushing through. These guys haven't moved yet. I noticed this guy forgot to move. Now he's in a horrible position. He must collide. So what I'm going to do is back sail once, 1, 2, he goes into this space. That creates a collision event. Now let's see if it happens. Roll a die and reference the result on the collision table. Alright, it's time to find the table. Oh crap, this one's going to be on the back here. Alright. Well, that's not going to be useful. Deduct command qualities of any commanders. There aren't any commanders over there. Increase the die roll for moving and target ship's relative rate. Okay, I've got a 3 and a 4. What does that mean? That means I'm at +2. If the moving or target ship is damaged, no. They're not even hurt. And I'm at like 4 movement points I wasn't able to expend. So I've got a 6 on the collision, it looks like. That sounds pretty likely. 11, that's going to create this little fouled marker. Now they stay in the same hexes. This just indicates a possibility for grappling, and they have to figure out how to unfoul. How does that all work? Damned if I know at this moment. I'll be back. Alright, well that was a bloody painful pulse. You can see the French and English are all conglomerated in here. The French are going every which way now, trying to avoid collisions, which they must. They had the one exception there. And also trying to get good fires in, which they would like to do. They've knocked a couple of ships into vulnerable, and I think the English suffered more than probably the French will with the English coming back at them. We'll see. It's hard to tell. But a lot of these English ships are badly mauled now, where they were in fairly good shape before. Just the weight of the French fleet was so much heavier. As to ordering, well, up to about here. Now, these guys, I don't know if they can trace through another French ship. If not, they're going to be in trouble in terms of command. And then the other command is, I don't know where the commander is. He may be here. Yeah. So these guys are okay. But this, those are all kind of out of it. I may have missed some vulnerables because I caught 2 that I had missed as I was going. Not last turn, but this turn I'm just not able to keep up as well. All right, we're back on the English. God knows what they have. You know, I haven't moved anything that's in command yet, but I don't know. I think I may have moved something. Who the hell knows? You know, there's just no way to tell without counters to indicate that, and I didn't want to add another counter to the game. English diddled another loose ship here, I think. I don't know. That may have been part of a command. I can't remember what's what anymore over here. I don't know where the Admiral is anymore. I don't know anything. The Admiral's facing this way. I think this one was facing that way, so it had to be a loose guy. Oh, no. That was... He did it by range, so maybe it had been under his command and isn't. Doesn't matter much. The French launched their final squadron, or column, or whatever you want to call them, their final command. They're out of ships, and now it's really just the English, and I may be double moving some of them because I can't tell what the hell's going on anywhere. I don't know which one this one's in command of. Maybe he's moved already, maybe he hasn't, I doubt it. But basically I have my two main commands, and I may have some loose ships still in there that I haven't moved. God only knows. But this pass-through, painful for both sides, but probably worse for the French, at least in the overall. Maybe this turn wasn't so bad. And everything else is British from now on. And I'm going to take another break because just moving those 4 ships took like 20 minutes. You know, it really is like moving one command is like moving not just, you know, a line. It's more like moving an entire force in SPQR. It is really fatiguing. Started moving the 2 commands on the English. Well, I've completed the 2 commands on the English left flank. These are the easy ones. I knew more or less what was up. There was a ship here I wasn't sure about, but fine. I think I've got it figured. Now to the mess. These guys didn't really do much. We got a little bit of fire going in here, maybe a little as we passed by with one other ship here, but for the most part, these guys didn't get shots during their own turns. The ones that have fired when the French passed through. Now comes the hard job of turning around, and the French have the choice of either beating or moving up to meet this superior force. You can just guess which way they think they're going to go. In this mess, I missed this French ship that's out of command. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, though, here. But that one I know is a mistake. That thing never moved. And that'll be the end of this turn. Minus the cleanup phase, I think. Kinda, I don't know. Oh, no, I didn't try. I get to cut him loose if I want. Or board. Let's try out the boarding rules. I have more manpower, so I'm thinking they'll work well for me or something. So I'm going to try to grapple instead of trying to cut loose. Cutting loose doesn't look terribly valuable. I kind of like this roadblock because it's going to cause problems for the big French fleet that's already a mess in there. Of course, that doesn't sound pleasant to play, but that's okay. I mean, you know, I got to make reasonable decisions, I guess. The reasonable decision right now would be to quit, pack this up, and not come back to it. It's not that I hate the game. I see its advantages. I see the fun. I see the fun a lot more than I did, say, with the Battles from the Age of Reason. But man, this is just too painful for me. I don't think I'll be coming back to it. I think this is my last scenario, which is a pity because, you know, I was kind of excited about a naval battle game when I first bought it. But all my experiences with it are just, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth the amount of effort that's involved for me. Maybe it is for you. So grappling. No, we can't grapple because we're not aligned side to side. So, all right, we'll try to cut loose then. We go to a die roll on the disengagement table. Okay. Okay. Wonder where that is. There it is. Alright. Commander quality. I don't have one. We're fouled, so it's +1. No, we're not going anywhere. So we're stuck there, and I don't have any fire open to me. I mean, I got one here. Yeah, I should do that. All right. Counter mess made a issue. This ship over here had a fired starboard counter on it, and a fired both counters, so it got to fire 3 times. Now, look, you know, little crap happens, things get screwed up, no problem with that. But this feels like it's just got this really high percentage of, because of the mechanical complications in the game, of causing screw-ups. For me, certainly. And you know, to that degree, you start to say to yourself, okay, so what are all these mechanical complications? What, the complex lookups, this, that, and the other, how much does that buy me if I'm going to make screw-ups like move a ship twice, not move a ship, fire twice from the same broadside? If I'm going to be making mistakes like that on a fairly regular basis, all the rest of the stuff, all the detail that there is, almost seems superfluous. Now, obviously, somebody who's more capable than me may be able to handle this much better. Moving on to turn 6. Remember, this is out of 16 turns, and we've only had 2 with combat going on. No ships have been knocked out yet, although we've got a number of vulnerable ones. The British with -4 to the strike table because of the command and the audacity ratings pretty much are invulnerable to just striking colors. So these are going to be kind of sailing around gunboats. Now, 3 of them back here, or no, 2 of them are nearly ready to sink. So that is really my only real option, is if they actually sink. Just dismasting ships isn't going to be very effective. The French really don't have a lot of chance here with the command value. Actually, it's -6 to the die roll from command. There's essentially no chance. Even if a ship has no hull points left, it is still guaranteed to roll a 3 or less. So no British ships will surrender in this battle, unless they're both dismasted and wrecked. So they're going down or they're going to fight. The French a little different. But the French don't have anything that's in real trouble yet. And you could say, wow, maybe the French are doing pretty well. I don't know. And in a lot of ways, I really don't care. My back is hurting, and I'm not enjoying this. All right, no change in the wind, but I noticed something interesting. Nelson has like a 9 command radius, while Hawk has an 8, which means I can span, without regard to facing these guys, taking all of them into command, down to... I think I was going to leave this one to him. I didn't have to. I can't reach around here, so I've still got a few out-of-command ships here and a couple tangled up here. This guy can command his squadron. Likewise, the French commander here in this mess is capable of commanding all those forces. And I'm dripping water. I went swimming, but I'm waiting for my romantic meal alone to warm up enough. I guess we roll for initiative. And so that ties it, because the English have a +2 to the command roll, the initiative roll, and then they have the audacity bonus, so they get the option here. Chances are they'll want to go first. If not, I gotta check my out of command ships. If not, with one of their out of command ships, with one of their formations. But if for some reason they don't, now it looks to me like this formation can do a good number on the French rear, so I will probably want to move that, because that's going to be the biggest hit that I can accomplish. Good commander in place, everything ends up in command, which makes it more difficult for me to remember which ships I moved, because the little out of command markers help you remember, oh yeah, I moved one of those special. But these guys don't have that anymore, and the tangled up mess, once the French move there or once the English move, the other side is going to be harder. Now the French are all in command, so that's not going to be tough for them. But for the English, I've definitely got some individual ships which are not part of the command. Is it terrible if I move one that isn't in the right command? No, that probably doesn't mean much. It is bad, though, if I do, as I'm sure I did last turn, moving ships twice or something along those. Hawk squadron moves first, sailing by, about three major ships got to hit these guys. Really chewed this thing up. It's at like 22 hits and only needs 12 to be sinkable. There's no real reason for this. I'm just playing target practice, I guess. Some of them were first broadsides. Pure mistake there. But whatever. It's the only way I can cope with this game is to just make my decisions and very seldomly retract them. Now we're over to a French activation, and notice how I indicate who the French are. They no longer really have to get this guy out of the way. There is a possible sail through there that's kind of somewhat dangerous. And perhaps here, although some of these ships are facing the wrong way. At this point, the question becomes, gosh, what do we move? You know, it's such a tangled mess. My inclination is this squadron here because it can chew up maybe these ships. I'll probably go with that. Okay, now the French slice through with their right flank. They sent one ship right through here and it just got hammered. This one over here, it's pretty much devastated at this point, but with a couple of pass-throughs, aft brakes on this thing also is devastated and ready to sink. Not a good trade. The French lost a bigger ship essentially, although there may have been some additional damage to this, but it was minuscule really. So the English move what is really their rightmost column, but it feels like the center of their force, even though all the weight's over here. And they were able to slice through here, do quite a bit of damage. These two things are hulks now, basically, although they get some firing opportunities. And passing through this thing got to fire, but I did some serious damage in here too. I also managed to free the fouled ships. That's all that happens, but now the French get to move, which is kind of why you don't want to free the fouled ships. I want my ship available though. It's a better ship than the French ship that was fouled with it. Now I notice I have no idea what the French command is. I got these markers out here. I'm assuming it's everything out here, but God knows. And now I knocked over a stack. I looked at these. I think these ships moved before, so I moved everything else up here. I'm pretty sure those guys moved too, but who knows for sure, you know? Anyway, I sliced through these Brits, did some more fire. This all seems so pointless, though, when I can't tell what I've moved and what I haven't. And adding more counters to the game to mark that, you know, it's gone too far already. It's too big. The stacks are too big. What if I did it on paper instead? Yeah, you know, keeping track of everything on paper might be the answer. But that does not feel like it's gonna... It would solve the piles issue, but it wouldn't solve the information issue. The information wouldn't be readily available. One of the advantages of a board war game over a minis game is that you've got the information all on the counters, the numbers, etc. But here there's just an overload of too much information, too many counters to play on it. That information would be impossible to remember, you know, which side did I fire this turn? How many hits do I have? All this is important as you move your piece. As you're moving your piece, you have to know how many sail hits it has, how many hull hits. Well, that you can kind of look at once at the beginning of the movement. But it's just so much to be tracked on the individual sheets, and there are so many ships. This is, I don't know. You know, I used to do SFB with this many ships on a side with everything on paper, essentially, and that was no big deal, so maybe it wouldn't be here either. But, man, it feels fatiguing to me. Alright, I got, I think, these 3 ships. Nope, and maybe these 2, who knows? I don't have a clue. I mean, I really don't. So I think I've got 5 English ships that I've got to move before I get to the end of this turn. And I may call it at the end of the turn. This is really miserable. Looks like the end of it with some of the English ships kind of pushing out to join that main force, one that was very successful over here on the wing. That is the English fleet now, but the others are pushing through to rejoin what's left of their force. And you can see one of the poor ones is on fire. Such a shame. It was rigging fire. The French are using more and more rigging fire. They had been using hull fire at the beginning of the battle, but they're not good at it. And at this point, they're trying to damage the British fleet enough that they can maybe single out a small portion of it and cut it up. That's what they should have done from the beginning. Not closed so much. It's hard to avoid that, though. My mindset is very English in naval battles. Okay, time for cleanup. And as we push to turn 7 here, ships are beginning to sink. 1 French, 2 British sunk, and a French has struck colors. Of course, again, that doesn't necessarily give it to the English. They have to go and actually capture it. And as long as there's a battle going on, it's tough to do that. Maybe some crippled ship could go do it, but for the most part, the rest of the fleet isn't going to follow that up. The English are, as I said, immune to striking colors in this scenario, just because of the good leadership, whatever. So they will fight to the bloody end. I got room for another turn, sort of, kind of. Well, I'm too much of a completionist to just walk away from the game. And it is going to get easier as more ships start dropping out, although the tangled mess will make it harder. I placed my command splits. Let's see what we can define here. The English, I don't think he's got this in command. That needs an out of command marker too, I think. So with this, hold on. What about him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, he's in command from over here. So I need a command split marker there. This guy over here is under Hawk's command, I believe. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So we put one there. So basically this guy is in command of these 3 ships for the Brits. Hawk can command whatever the hell he likes, but his range ends here. I should have another little command range split just to indicate that. And he decided to split here to give this dude Hardy a command. It's kind of a weird situation. You want your big guy to be in the mess, or to have a messy formation. You want to head him towards the messy formations. You can see there's a lot of stuff still out of command, though. Here, in the heat of the battle, the British didn't have enough range on the one leader they have over here. And some outliers as well. And for the French, I don't remember where Quiberon is. He's over here, kind of not in the best place. I had another commander here who's able to get a few ships, 3 into command here. He could have gotten this one too, but I decided to put the main force there under Der Verger. So what we do is we roll for initiative, of course. And the English win, of course. And then I'll roll for the out of command units and try to remember that they're separate little formations. This is a really, really tough game to play the way I like to play, which is walking away. Yeah, I mean, I can't sit down and play for... A turn takes maybe 2 hours. I can't do that straight. A formation, 20 minutes, you know, maybe an hour. That's the most I can handle. And that hour is probably going well beyond. 20 minutes is about what I like in a little pulse of a game. And even if I'm playing opposed, I don't want to be paying attention to the game for the whole period. If I have to pay attention for 10, 15 minutes during my turn, great. If it starts going beyond 20, it's painful for me. And then what I want to do is I want to sit back and I want to recharge, smoke my pipe, kind of daze off into space. When I play solitaire, I walk away and I do something else. This game is not conducive to that at all, because you have to remember where every ship you've moved, you have to remember. You have to remember which ones are their own separate commands. You have to remember this, that, and the other. It would really be helpful to remember the names of the ships and the rating, the values that you've got on all those counters. That's asking a little much. There's a reason the counters are there. And it's not just because you need to walk away. Okay, I think I finished up the first English command I was going to do. I took a Hawks command because they had this maybe one time only opportunity to light these guys up, the 4 French ships. And they totally did it. I mean, they're smashed to splinters. Every single one of them is a floating wreck at this point. It's just a matter of when they decide to capsize. Mainly, this one was already hit, but gunning this one was my key goal. But then I realized I could throw Hawk right along the side of this one. It couldn't fire because I could pick the side it had already fired to defend itself, and then just slide right between these two, and I destroyed both of them with my big first rate. I mean, they were in pretty bad shape already. I think one was vulnerable already, but they're just wrecked now. Elsewhere, well, I don't know. I think this guy didn't move. I gotta move him. He's part of that command, and he'll be moving against this ship. Or no, that's an English ship. I don't know what he'll be doing. We'll just move him forward. 1, 2, 3. There's some French coming around that way. 4. He only gets 4 because he's got some sail issues. With Hawk in command, I don't have to worry too much. As long as I keep lines of sight open, he can shout really loud and everybody can hear him. And it's not a matter of training, because his subordinates aren't automatically good either. You know, I mean, it's not just, it's that they're used to looking at a ship. I don't know. One kind of interesting little place we had was this ship tucked in here. I forgot to fire this one. It was lined up. It didn't get return fire. There was no defensive fire possible because it was an out of command ship, and it chose not to fire, and it probably should have exchanged fire. Right now the British want to break up the French as much as possible. They're fine exchanging shots, especially since their shots are hull, and the French are probably going to go for rigging, it seems, from now on. These guys here had an interesting position. I don't remember quite where they were, but they ended up having to shift into this position. I think they were just facing straight, and got fire on both of these French ships, and kind of did a nice job on them too. You know, it's breaking very much in favor of the English at this point. But anyway, now I gotta figure out how to remember when the French go or whatever, where those commands were, because I gotta go to work. Okay, so the French chose to move their little squadron, the tiny one that was in here, and damned if I know what happened. They managed to almost demast this ship, and both ships passed by this one opening fire. Overall, though, they took a lot more hull damage on the one ship that was subject to whatever, the Revenge, which is gunfire. It's not a huge ship. It's smaller than theirs, but theirs are damaged and not in good shape, and it was in perfect shape at the time. That puts it on the English again, and now things get kind of tricky. So I'm trying to remember. I've got a captain somewhere. God knows where. I got this guy up here. He could conceivably move, and he could do some things. And then I've also got some of these loose ships, which includes some that are, no, this one moved, that are in command, like that one, and this thing. So I could play for delaying time. I think chances are most likely there isn't a lot that I can really do with the English. This command at least includes some ability to fire on on some French ships, but those are ships that have moved already. These ships, I might want to get out of their way. They're essentially wrecks, but they have some firepower. A couple moves, not a lot happened. The English, I think, shifted this ship up or something, this ship maybe, and traded some fire at long range. The French moved their last, I think, no, they still haven't moved this formation. Their last really effective formation did very little, some long range fire against this ship. But it is repositioning itself, and these are mainly fresh ships. There are very few English fresh ships, just a couple way back here, that aren't going to be able to do much. So we may see a heavy shift in the amount of force that the French are able to bring to bear on the upcoming couple turns. They have the wind with them for now, more or less. They're just running, but and now most of what's left for the English, all of what's left are kind of their loose ships. The French still have this kind of wreck of a formation here to move. Once I move that, I may be able to get the commander off there and onto a reasonable ship. But it's a long way. If he succeeds in making a transfer, it's going to be somewhat unbelievable how far he travels. It's going to be to something like this. Maybe everything moved, maybe it didn't. I got some real suspicions about this one. Some of them may have moved more than once. Who knows? It's time for cleanup, and we got a fire here. I can take some of these out of command and firing markers off. That'll help me see what's going on. But the French pulled away with their final one. I did all the little ships in here. No idea what to tell you about them. I mean, you know, things traded shots. They're in bad shape. Such is. There's no real clear view of the battlefield from anybody's standpoint in this. There's so many counters all over it. And, you know, the ships don't disappear. They don't get wrecked so clearly. I find in SFB, looking at those SSDs, which are essentially a chart of the whole ship with all the damage on it, helps. So, you know, I mean, I've been tossing around. Should I just quit? Should I quit in the middle of a game? The fact that I'm continuing the game, does that mean I'm just going to keep playing? But something in me says, all right, give it a chance where you chart everything. Maybe you'll like it better that way. Some people play with little cards for all the ships. That may work well. Who knows? But as of right now, I'm really miserable. And definitely going to take a break after this game. Let's see if I can finish this one up. And as we push into turn 8, yeah, halfway through, yay. No, not quite. You can see the French lost a leader. He went down with a ship. Not this one that struck, I hope, because no. I think this bad boy that's adrift here sunk with him. I'm not sure. Nah, I think it was one that struck, which means he's still on board. He's not dead yet. He's only dead if it's captured. This one sunk. We had an English ship sink here. We got some other sunk. I think this one sunk too. Basically just, you know, but the big ones don't break up and sink easily. They're very, very capable of staying alive. And that's where we are at this point. I'm going to load this one up. But playing this with just the counters, I think, is hopeless.